Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Rawls Group's Advancing Your Business, Your People, and Your Legacies podcast. My name is Kendall Rawls. I'm the Director of Development with the Rawls Group and your host. If there is one thing 2020 has taught us, it is that every year has its unknowns. The global pandemic, social unrest, and an election of 2020 are extra, but you could easily replace these unknowns with an unexpected divorce, marriage, a baby, or a new business partner. Either way, we are frequently asked, what planning should I be doing? Unfortunately, we find that dealers often feel they should wait until they know more about tax laws and the future makeup of their family and business before initiating planning. Over the last 45 plus years, our friends and the experts at Crowe and our succession planners at the Rawls Group have been to many of these rodeos and have found this mindset puts dealers at a major disadvantage. In this episode of Planning Post-Pandemic and Political Unrest, What's in It for Me series, Kevin Gilbreath, a tax partner with Crowe, and our very own succession planners, Hugh and David Weaver, discuss and provide real-life stories about the type of planning you should be doing in unknown environments. Let's go. Kevin, what planning should a dealer be doing?
Well, the best kind of estate tax planning is the one that you start today, because none of us really knows what holds tomorrow. And you've got to look at the planning that you should start doing today is thinking about what do you want your legacy to be? What do you want for the next generation? What do you want for your spouse? Thinking about what kind of legacy you want to leave in a charitable situation. Those are the basic questions that you start to answer. That way you can start to craft a plan that achieves that legacy, but in a most tax efficient manner. And I think the other next steps are understand, get a sense of what the true value is of your estate is today and what it could be 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Really get an understanding of how much of your estate is going to be taxable when it comes time to pass to the next generation. And where does that leave that next generation? If you want your kids to continue on and continue building the business, do they have all the right tools that they need and the cash flow that they need to both pay the taxes and hopefully are reduced to a very minimum and not be in trouble, not have a cash flow or a leverage problem to be able to achieve that. So as far as what should I be doing, there's a lot and it's hard to all cover, but those are the base suggestions. Is you want to think about what is my legacy and how do I best achieve that with a great tax strategy.
Hugh, is there anything you can offer?
A couple things. First of all, people have a tendency often to think I've got to have it exactly right. I've got to work out all the issues, et cetera, before I do anything. And yesterday, I was working with clients that are in their 80s. Their plan is many, many years out of date. And they recognize that they really need to do something, but they haven't quite been able to figure out exactly what they're willing to do, et cetera. And so it's just frozen them. They're not going anywhere with it. And I said, listen, your planning needs to reflect, as Kevin was just saying, it needs to reflect if something happened to me tomorrow, what would I want to have happen? And that might be plan B, but I said, let's get plan B in place because that's at least better than what you've got right now. And we'll work towards, we can always change it and make it whatever you want it to be in the future. But it's critical to not wait till you got everything lined up exactly because you may never get there. And then another one that we see constantly, if there's any one, I call it a mistake, is kind of the Christmas Hanukkah approach. And that is, I love all my kids equally, therefore every one of my kids is going to get exactly the same amount. And so, parents just before the holidays, they're sitting there and they got all their gifts laid out. And I got 2 for Sally and I got 4 for George. Well, wait a minute, the 2 for Sally costs more than the 4 for George. And they're driving themselves crazy. And then they come into the estate and they do the exact same thing. And it's everybody's going to get, well, that's fine. There's only 2 ways to be equal. One is to have 1 child. That works great. The other one is to basically sell everything off and give everybody, just get a stack of coins and 1 to you, 1 to you, 1 to you, 1 to you. Well, nobody's going to do that. because we've got assets, we've got businesses that are important, et cetera. And so now you've got to do what Kevin was talking about, is pay attention to what each person is going to get, and therefore becomes really critical that what they get are meaningful assets to them. Meaningful usually means income producing. To the extent that I get some income off of it, now I can have a change in lifestyle, an upgrade of my lifestyle, et cetera. And then pay attention to what are those who are going to continue the business going to need. If the business it goes under because you put too much debt on them trying to make everything equal, they got to buy out their brothers and sisters and so forth, you can kill the golden goose. So a couple of those things become critical. You've got to have a plan that's going to allow the golden goose to continue. And just one more part to that is make sure you got manufacturer approval of whatever your plan is.
David, what do you have to offer?
Well, I'll echo what Kevin said. It's really more about timing and when as opposed to what, and meeting with an advisor and walking through and understanding what you want your legacy to be really helps start the process. And also in Hugh, in the things that he's saying, there's so much possibilities of what could be working on. And I think my answer more is the when as opposed to what, in that I think we all have clients that are in their 80s that we've talked to, or prospective clients many times, that they just can't seem to pull the trigger, and I'm not ready yet. And we'll probably get into some of that and some of the other questions. I recently started working with a client who is barely 50 years old and a child that's in middle school. And, part of me as an advisor says, all right, well, what kind of concerns does someone like that have? But really what he and his wife said is, we really want to focus on our legacy. And we know the legacy in part is fueled by the business. So if we're not focusing on what we need to be doing with the business, what we need to be doing with our estate, then it might be too late when we finally decide to make that decision. So I think there's no time like the present to at least be considering some of the things that we're talking about today.
Yeah, over the years working with dealers, it seems for a while there, the most common estate tax planning strategy was to never die. We know that doesn't work. It don't work so long, even though dealers love their job and they probably want to work there every day until the end. It's still best to do, today is the best day to start to think about it.
It's a great observation, Kevin. And one of the things also is that I think a lot of people don't like to talk about estate planning, tax planning. Yeah, it's year by year, that kind of thing. But I think they don't like to talk about estate planning because they are having to face the reality of death. And guess what? It happens to all of us. It's just a matter of when you want to talk about it and plan for it.
I would just add one more thing, is the only way to be in control is for you to make the decisions. And I haven't met a dealer yet who didn't like the idea that I'm in control of my situation. So if you want to be in control, then basically you make the decisions and then get the manufacturer to agree to those decisions. And now you got a plan that is going to be the one that you want. If you wait until you're gone and hope the manufacturer will agree to it, you got a hope, I hope type plan. That doesn't work very well.
What an excellent discussion about what planning should a dealer be doing in an environment of so many unknowns. Thank you to our expert panel, Kevin Gilbreath with Crowe, and the Rawls Group's Hugh Roberts and David Weaver for sharing your expertise. Tune in to our next episode of the Planning Post-Pandemic and Political Unrest, What's in It for Me series, which will focus on what if I am not ready to gift or give up control to the next generation? Do you have a question you want to discuss with an expert? Feel free to reach out directly to Kevin Gilbreath, Hugh Roberts, or David Weaver. Cut and stop. 3. What an excellent discussion about what planning should a dealer be doing in an environment of so many unknowns. Thank you to our expert panel, Kevin Gilbreath with Crowe, and the Rawls Group's Hugh Roberts and David Weaver for sharing your expertise. Tune in to our next episode of the Planning Post-Pandemic and Political Unrest, What's in It for Me series, which will focus on what if I am not ready to gift or give up control to the next generation? Do you have a question you want to discuss with an expert? Feel free to reach out directly to Kevin, Hugh, or David at the email addresses featured on the screen. Continue listening to the series now or come back later for more. Each topic featured may want you to learn something new.